Hi Internet, I'm Heyishi, and this is Spilling the Congee about my web series. In this series, I'm going to be sharing the process behind making my first web series, Gay Mean Girls. Gay Mean Girls was shot out of order. I worked in a writer's room to create this series. Every episode has a different writer. All of our writers were queer women of color. This is my first feature-length project. This episode was written by A. Liu and me, Heyishi Zhang. Today, we will be eating pork ball and fish congee. So these pickups of the house were actually shot way later. Because when I was in the edit room, the editor, Cece, who's also Chinese, pointed out that Lucy's room didn't look like a real Chinese immigrant girl's home. We went all the way to Richmond Hill, which is densely populated with a lot of Chinese people. And I went to my friend's house and we shot like her entire home. Like we got there and she would say stuff like, oh, like let me like take off the blankets off the railing. I was like, no, do not change anything. It was like so Asian, the most Asian house I've ever seen, and I was like here for it. So when we were filming these pickups, Haley was like very conscientious about the white gaze in these shots. Like at one point she was like, I don't want people to think that Lucy's weird because she's Chinese. I want people to think that she's weird because she's just weird. So typically when you do a production, it's important that you have a mood board for every single location that you're in. I've done this with every other film that I've done, but because this production was moving so quickly, it just slipped my head. It just slipped my mind for some reason. This is how we fixed it, but if you want to make your own film, do a mood board. It'll be easier for both yourself and the art department and the editor and everyone else. Hi, I'm calling on behalf of Harper Heights. That's my voice. I'm the voice actor. Whenever I would call in sick from school, I would put on a fake Chinese accent.
Yes, this is she.
I like this freeze frame a lot. I wanted people to know that this isn't just a gay show, it's an Asian show. This family portrait was photoshopped. So for this mom, it was a deliberate choice to not show her face, and we wanted people to project their own parents onto this character. This live on the streets part, that's so classic Asian mom thing to say. Calling child services on your parents is such a white people thing to say, but then this like I would go berserk on her too bit is like also so typical, this like self-blame to like cope. This is like the Kim Kardashian lying down blanket.
你要我打电话给学校吗？
No, 我可以和 Miranda 告诉老师。
I really like how Lucy switches between Chinese and English in these lines. I think it adds like realism to it. That was a big part of why I wanted to cast someone who is bilingual for this role. This pig is terrifying. I had this like friend that Miranda is based on. Like we were in high school and would just like send each other porn.
No, I only like amateur.
Within this like process of like your political awakening and like accepting yourself, like the very first stage, at least for me, was like becoming like best friends with like this other queer white girl who's like woke. So I think when you're discovering all of these new things about yourself and like this in-between space that a lot of queer people experience between friendship and romance, your boundaries are not really clear. It can become a toxic relationship really easily. Like looking back, I would have liked to explore this aspect of it more.
We should catch up on all the teen classics.
I love this part. The writer of this episode is like an immigrant to Canada. She's also Chinese, and she would have these like conversations with her friends where like she doesn't know any of their cultural references, and they're like, oh my god, you don't know any of these things? And she's like, bitch, I'm trying my best. Okay, so that's so Asian line.
That's so Asian.
So Hannah says it in almost a cruel way, but that line when we were writing it was never intended to be cruel. I think what happened was that Hannah had some issues getting past the shame of her own character and the violence that her character was inflicting. I think that's like censorship line is actually much more offensive.
You know that's like censorship, right?
You're essentially criticizing someone else's culture without understanding it, but that's so Asian, you're just pointing out a fact. I would have liked to unpack the violence within the script with more intention during rehearsals.
Because in your orange shirt, you look like a better, happier Saint Sebastian.
This poetry reading part is like very gay and I'm very into it. The music here is supposed to be canto pop, but we couldn't get the rights to it in time. This was not real pear soup. It was like some beef broth and like no sugar. It tasted really disgusting. So I think I've gotten a lot of mixed messages about the status of Lucy's home life. My intention was to allude to the fact that it's abusive, but also to show the complexities of that. When you're experiencing any kind of abuse, it's never black and white. You know, you're being cared for, or like you're being treated well, but then the emotional verbal abuse is still there. And so I wanted to show the process of how Lucy blames herself for a lot of these things because she's so enmeshed within this dynamic. Something I'm really excited about for the second season is to explore more of this home life situation. I'm very excited. Does anyone else masturbate to cope?